Welcome to JEA, and thank you all for coming out to our Black History Month program. I'm Carrie Stewart. I am the Chief Customer Officer here at JEA, and we have an exciting program lined up for you today. This year's theme is African Americans in Times of Struggle, How I Moved the Mountain. We hope you enjoy the program today. The Black History Month Committee has worked very hard to put it together. I want to make sure we thank all of them. Please join me in welcoming dancers from La Villa School of the Arts.
Keep clapping while we put up the music here. Hold on. Keep clapping.
When I count all my blessings, I can't more, can't even say more. When I count all my blessings, my heart still hurts for the world that knew all that I know. Singing down under the water, slipping down under, drifting out into the water, missing out under. Tell me what is it you care for? Is there even a care at all? Praying for sense of direction, praying for love and protection. Singing down under the water, slipping down under, drifting out into the water, missing out under. Tell me what is it you care for? Is there even a care at all? Praying for sense of direction, praying for love and protection. I count all my blessings, I can't even say anymore, can't even be said anymore. When I count all my blessings, my heart still hurts for the world that I know, the world that I know. Singing down under the water, slipping down under, drifting out into the water, missing out under. Tell me what is it you care for? Is there even a care at all?
Let's give those young ladies one more round of applause. They did a wonderful job. It just brought back memories when I could do something like that. And that was a long, long time ago. Well, as you probably realize, I am not Anita Henre. Unfortunately, she was not able to join us from Orlando, Florida, but she did send some words in regards to UNCF that I'd like to share with you today. Just to tell you a little bit about the United Negro College Fund. Locally, in 2017, the UNCF raised over $100,000, including a $50,000 scholarship from Wells Fargo here in the Jacksonville market. These funds help UNCF provide deserving students with the financial wherewithal to obtain a college education who otherwise would not have the financial resources to attend college. Most college fund students come from disadvantaged families, and more than half of the students have family incomes of less than $25,000. 62% are the first in their families to attend college, and more than 90% of the students rely on financial aid. Last year, UNCF supported over 65,000 nationwide, and here in Florida, 6,100. These funds also help historically black colleges and universities, which are HBCUs, such as Edward Waters College. That's why your support is needed now more than ever, and your contributions to them are tax deductible. Last year, the Black History Month Committee raised over $1,500, and we could not have done it without you. Through our vendor fairs, which happened on February 8th and 9th, and I know many of you bought some of those Dillard's items, 10% of those funds go to the UNCF on behalf of JEA. So we ask that our employees continue to make donations by purchasing items through our vendor fairs. And if you also like to make a personal donation, we have envelopes here that you can fill in for your check, or you can provide them to us at a later date, and we will submit that to them. Just make it out to UNCF. So please remember that your contributions help, because a mine is a terrible thing to waste. At this time, I'm going to ask Abigail Haskins, who is on the Black History Month Committee, and also Office Support Associate here at JEA in the Electric Systems area, to come forward and introduce our moderator today.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for coming to this program. I hope you enjoy every moment of it. It was so much fun to put it together. Well, we have a person who has a passion for the media. She likes to be able to ask the questions and get the answers. She knows how to dig around. And when she found out that we had a department that would feed to her passion, she was more than happy to become the moderator for this program. At this time, I would like to introduce to everyone Gina Kyle.
Thank you, and you'll hear it over and over again. We're going to say thank you for coming over and over again, and we were really excited when we were putting this year's program together. Before I introduce the panelists, I want to take a little, just a little liberty and ask one of our dancers to stand. Her name is Natalia Martinez, and she happens to be the daughter of Bruno Martinez, who is one of our JEA members. So, Natalia, as well as the entire group of ladies, we are so glad that you were able to join us today. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and do a brief introduction of our panelists today. I'm not going to read everything that's in the bio. I know you don't want to hear me read, but I will pick out a couple of noteworthy things. And as I do so, if you would, you guys would come up to the front. So I'll start off with Jamal Fudge. He is, and you probably have heard of him, he is a former NFL player, of course a Jacksonville native. He played 3 years with the Clemson Tigers. Anybody in here like Clemson? I knew it. All right. Also, helped the Jaguars for 2 years and the Atlanta Falcons for 2 years. And now Jamal teaches at Westview Elementary. So thank you so much for joining us, Jamal. The Honorable Paula D. Wright is the board chair of Duval County Public Schools. Her mantra, and she also represents District 4, by the way. Her mantra is, when our students succeed, our schools succeed. And when our schools succeed, our community thrives. So welcome to Paula Wright. Laura Lothman Lambert is with the State Attorney's Office, and she's a juvenile director with a passion for juvenile justice. Thank you so much for joining us, Laura. Renata Hannons is the author of P.S. Never Give Up Hope, and she's known as the Hope Doctor. She is a proud graduate of Ribault Senior High School. Welcome, Renata. And last but certainly not least is Dr. Nathaniel Glover, who is currently the president of Edward Waters College for a while, short while longer, and he's the 29th president of the college, and he was also the first African-American elected sheriff in the state of Florida. Welcome, Dr. Glover. I'm sorry.
Only one mic works at a time, so if you want the panel to have that mic, you have to use it too.
Oh,
They don't
okay.
work together.
All right, so I'll use it. All right, so here's how we're going to do it today. Not very many questions from me at all. I know you don't want to hear me speak, but what we've already shared with our group of panelists is we really want to hear their story. We were very deliberate this year in terms of planning who we wanted to come to speak to everyone, and we knew that we wanted to have someone from all different areas, and so we're very lucky to have been able to assemble this group of speakers. So we want to give each of them between 2 and 5 minutes, please feel free to take your 5 minutes, to share their story as it relates to our theme, which is again, African Americans in times of struggle, how I move the mountain. So I can either start with Jamal, or if there's anyone else who has a burning desire to go first. All right, Jamal, you're on.
Well, being a Jacksonville native, born and raised, growing up on each side of town, west, east, except for the south side. So I've experienced a lot, being the first in my family to go to college, graduate from college, and not becoming a product of my environment, you know, as so many youth in Jacksonville are labeled as. And also just, excuse me, defying the odds of, say, taking that challenge from going to college and pursuing a dream of being in the NFL, and defying those odds of the NFL measurables of not being the perfect height, the perfect weight, perfect size. You know, somebody who's 6'2", 6'3", they're pretty much guaranteed a draft spot. And myself being 5'9", 190 pounds, they see me as somebody who's small and can't do much, but defying those odds and lasting 4 years and become invested, you know, being an alumni and being able to retire through the NFL. And now I use my experience to go back and share from the community which I come from to be an educator, to be an inspiration to the younger generation so that it may aspire to be great, you know, when their time comes. So I use my experience to kind of share with those kids, because most kids want to be the athletes or the rappers, you know. They want to get to the end goal, but they don't want to go through the process. So I share my process with them to understand what you got to go through to get to where you want to go. So there's going to be struggles of ups and downs, those times where you have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, you got to work out, you got to eat, then you have to go to class at 8 o'clock in the morning, which you might not want to do, but it's a process you have to do. If you don't do it, then you're setting yourself up for failure, not becoming routine, and it's going to kind of affect you later in life, where you may not want to get up and go to work, you want to get those extra 30 minutes of sleep, then you're going to be late, end up losing your job. So kind of setting them on the right path, you know, early, because if you don't have that structure now, it'll kind of get away from you later. So being a teacher, I come in and just kids need structure. Going from different schools, subbing, I see kids from who's getting that attention at home, who's getting that structure, and I also see kids who come to school who don't have that structure. So when they see myself, I'm a breath of fresh air because I'm a little bit younger than the teachers they're used to, so I'm more relatable. So that also plays a part in me getting my message across to them, because having a teacher who's been in the system for 30, 40 years, they don't have the energy to pour into the kids anymore. So me being a fresh face, and somewhat of a younger body, I can kind of give that energy to them, through my speeches or playing on the playground or something. Just kind of, any way I can kind of get to them and engage a conversation with them.
Thank you.
Thank you. I feel so old now, but I certainly thank you all for the opportunity. Thank Ms. Stanford and the committee and Ms. Haskins for moderating, and I am just grateful to be here because very seldom am I asked about my story. I'm asked a lot of questions, but it's not about your story. I'm one of 12 children born here in Jacksonville. I have 9 brothers, all are older. I am a product of Duval County Schools. I am of the integration age. In my 8th grade, that was the first year of integration here in Duval. And it was tough because of the climate, because of the time. I recall when I was a student at James Weldon Johnson, we had books that said Joseph Stilwell. Well, we didn't know who Joseph Stilwell was. We just thought it was a book. But then when integration arrived, we were bused. Back then, we were bused by the last name. And so I was bused to Joseph Stilwell. I was like, wow. Now, I didn't make all of those connections as a 8th, 9th grader, but I went on and I graduated from Edward H. White High School and was not allowed to graduate from where I wanted to graduate all of my life. I wanted to be a Viking like a lot of students here. I went on to Jacksonville University and graduated and focused on how do I get involved. A lot of people thought I was in the military. Never went into the military, but my father was he was so structured with 12 kids. We knew exactly what to do, when to do it, and you did your part. And I say all of that to say this. We were classified financially as poor, but we didn't know it. See, in my home, we didn't talk about what we did not have. We talked about how are you going to achieve and where are you going to go. So all of us graduated from high school except my oldest 2 brothers because of the time. The mountain that I looked at when I ran for school board in 2010 was how do I improve the quality of education for the students on the north side. At that time, our district was rated C, a C grade. We had a number of schools that were low performing, and we also had a lot of disconnect. Your theme mentions the word struggle. The struggle is still real, and I don't want anybody to think that discrimination has gone by or racism has gone by, but I do want to say that there are more people on every side of the spectrum that recognizes that and are doing things to make it better, doing things to improve relationships, doing things to honor African Americans in your program here today. And I went to the wrong building, and there's a beautiful sign that I took a picture of, JEA acknowledges Black History Month. So it's programs like this that's getting the word out, that's helping to stimulate conversation, to help stimulate attitude adjustments. And along with that, once I became a board member, I began to see things from a different perspective, quite naturally. So one of the things that mountain was still there, but I am proud to say that we've moved the mountain. I cannot take individual credit for that because we work as a collective board, but the way we moved that mountain and the way I did my part was accountability. And it's about asking questions. And sometimes people don't want questions asked because they don't want to share the real answer. So if there's anything that I can say today, if you have a mountain, you move it by first holding yourself accountable, second, holding each person accountable. And when you begin to do that, you begin to connect. You connect as a community, you connect as an organization, you connect as a group of people. And then you can begin to have real, open, honest conversations about those schisms that separate us, those schisms that will continue to divide us, and then focus on how do we get beyond those. So in terms of this being Black History Month, I can go down the litany from Negro to Black, the word before Negro, to all kinds of names in terms of how people of my color have been labeled. But I'm also proud to say today that we as a people have worked hard to show different and to really show who we really are. So it is a time to celebrate. It's a time to celebrate all of the efforts that we have made as a collective body. But also, I don't want anyone to walk away thinking that everything is rosy. It's not, but we're working at it. We're working to improve it. And that mountain, for me, in terms of education, we now only have one school in Duval County that's an F school. We are a B district as in board. We're 18 points from making an A, and we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. But I didn't move that mountain without going to the rock. My faith in God allowed me to take some things home that I should have left in the boardroom, but guided me, helped me, and when times are hard, you have to have something greater than a husband, a wife, child, to hold on to. Greater than a human being is my point, so that you can lock in, you can hold, you can count on, you can cry to, and you can tell everything to, and won't come back. So faith in God and faith in that I would do the right thing. And when I'm not doing the right thing, that I'm hoping somebody's holding me accountable. And I'm here to tell you, if I misstep, let me know. We can't improve. We cannot improve as individuals or as an organization if we don't say to our sister to the left or our brother to the right, you made a little misstep. So the mountains are still there. It doesn't stop growing, and sometimes you chop it down a little bit, but there's one over there. So just please continue to think about accountability and your faith and what's your purpose. And those things will come to give you the strength to move whatever mountain that's before you. Thank you.
I don't know how I go after that. I mean, I think you pretty much said everything. My name is Laura Lambert. I'm the director of the Juvenile Division at the State Attorney's Office. I am new to my role. Ms. Nelson, who's our new state attorney, or she's been in office now for a year, but she hired me because during her campaign, she understood the importance of juvenile justice and how that part of the office, in a lot of ways, is one of the most important parts of the office. And so she really wanted to put a lot of attention and a lot of care into how we were handling and prosecuting our children. And so I'm a Jacksonville native as well. I am a product of Duval County Public Schools as well. I love this city. I I grew up here, I went away to college, I went to law school, I went to work in DC at the Department of Justice under Eric Holder for a while. Then I came back to Jacksonville, was working at the US Attorney's Office, and then Ms. Nelson approached me after she won the election and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this job? And I was humbled and amazed that she would even entrust me to such an important part of her agenda. But I will say that I have learned an incredible amount in the year that I have been the director of the juvenile division. And I see, I mean, the vast majority of kids who are arrested in Jacksonville are young black men between the age of 15 and 17-year-old in the juvenile division. That is the majority of kids that are coming through my office. And what we have been doing historically has not been working. I think we can all agree on that. And so Ms. Nelson asked me and challenged our office to come up with alternative ways, think outside the box on ways that we can try to help and reach out to these kids. Because obviously there are crimes that are dangerous that have to be prosecuted, but we also look at this issue as a community issue. It's not a black issue, it's not a white issue, it is an issue of safety in our community, and we need to do better by these kids so that they are not interacting with the justice system in the first place. So a lot of my story today is just about how my life has changed in the last year, how I've become really plugged into the community, to the services, meeting all kinds of different people who are helping to open my eyes to the different issues that we face here in Jacksonville with our rising violent crime problem amongst children, and what are ways that we can tackle it. And so I think there are a couple of things that we've done that are really great, but there's always a lot more work to do. And so I'm really proud of the work we've done on civil citation, which is a program where we've been arresting less kids, and the sheriff's office and all law enforcement in Jacksonville have been really supportive of issuing citations for misdemeanors rather than arresting kids, and we've had a lot of really positive results with the civil citation program. Our direct file numbers are down. That was another big issue, that we were filing a lot of children as adults. And so that's something else that we have changed our policy radically. And so the year before Ms. Nelson took office, there were about 94 young people who were filed as adults, and this past year I believe the number was about 18 or 19. So those are some good things I think we've done, but by no means are we even close to being finished with the hard work that we're doing in Jacksonville. So I just really appreciate being invited to speak along with these amazing Jacksonville natives who have given so much to our community and have contributed in ways that are incredibly meaningful and impactful. And I am here to learn today about ways that I can also continue to help serve this community. Because I was talking with some young men yesterday at Lee High School, and they were asking me, you know, what can I do? They were angry, they were upset, they're sad about guns, they're sad about school shootings, they're sad about so many things. And the takeaway was, get out there and vote, because if you don't like what you're seeing, you got to be involved in the conversation, you got to be involved in the process. And so I am just grateful, because I love this city so much, to be involved in this conversation and involved in this process. So thank you.
My name is Renata Hannons. I too am a Jacksonville native and a product of Duval County Public Schools. I keep Joan Ribault Senior High School in my bio because when I graduated, it was a failing school. It had a negative connotation associated with it, and I'm proud to be a productive Jacksonville native that graduated from a quote-unquote failing school, and so many of my classmates as well. I also am a graduate of Jacksonville University. I started working for a large nonprofit back in 2010, working with at-risk youth at Raines High School, and I noticed the trend of a lot of them being arrested, being direct filed, being murdered. I attended so many funerals, hospitals when they were shot, all types of things as in my work as a case manager. So I decided I would write young people who were incarcerated to get advice from them and just show my students the letters. And those letters lingered in my office for months. And finally, I'm probably over 2,000 letters now from young people who are incarcerated all over the country, not just in Duval County, who've read my work, who've heard about me somehow. And I formulated a book, and the book is titled P.S. Never Give Up Hope. And I share those stories with young people who may be in some of those same situations, who come from some of those same toxic environments, who lack, who live in homes that absentee parents or were being raised by their grandparents, who decide to commit crimes, that the state attorney, they have a job to do, and they will prosecute you. And one decision can change the entire course of your life that you make at the age of 12, 13, and 14 years old. Every Tuesday evening, my organization, myself, I have a therapist, a licensed therapist, as well as a case manager and someone that does guided meditation and yoga. We go in and we work with the girls, the incarcerated girls. Now, I'll be honest, when I first started this 5 years ago, volunteering at a detention center, I signed up to work with the boys because, like she said, so many of our 15 to 17-year-old black males in our city are being arrested, charged as adults, and committing a lot of the crimes that we see in news media. So they were like, no, we think you'll be good working with the girls. And I'll be honest, I told the lady, I was like, yeah, I'm not interested. Girls have bad attitudes. They are mouthy. I am a girl. I know what it's like. I don't want to go in there with them. So the first meeting, I told them who I was, and they like, okay, whatever. Then the second one, and they started warming up, and it is a revolving door. And now I call it Detention Center Tuesday. You cannot, if anyone calls me on a Tuesday to do anything, the answer is no. I don't care if it's paying. I don't care. I am always at the detention center on Tuesday evening working with the girls. I love the girls. Female incarceration is a growing epidemic. We have one of the largest juvenile detention facilities in North Florida. It's a 100-bed facility, so there are young people from everywhere. I have met girls from Rhode Island, Maine, and I asked, well, how did you get to Jacksonville? Me and my boyfriend stole my daddy's car. And I'm like, you drove from there? They're like, yeah. So I meet young people from everywhere in the detention facility, and I think a lot of people reach out to me and ask me what can they do, and there's a big misconception that you have to have something tangible to offer young people, like money or funding or a program or a building or something, and you don't. You just have to offer of yourself. So I charge everyone in this room to at least reach out to one young person and give them some of your time, give them some of your wisdom. You don't have to be anything. You just share your experiences with them and be transparent with them and help them. Everybody's looking for the answer of what we can do with our youth. They're looking for programming, they're looking for funding, and the answer is within us, is love, and that's what we are lacking. A lot of the violence that occurs, it's a symptom of poverty. There will always be violent crimes in areas where the people are impoverished. It just is. And one thing that we can do is teach young people how to love themselves, how to respect themselves, and in turn, they will turn around and love other people and respect others as well. So she said my name was the Hope Doctor. It's the Hope Dealer.
Thanks for that correction.
I'm sorry. It's the Hope Dealer, and I try to teach young people to hope, to look beyond their current circumstances and their current environment, and to dream and to hope for so much more, that it can be done. I was a teen parent. I didn't start college until I was 21 years old. I had a full-time job and was working, and then I went to college at JEA, and I finished when I was 25. By that time, my daughter was 7 years old. So we don't all have a hand of cards that we get the best cards. We just have to learn how to play the cards that we are dealt, and that is what I teach young people, not to be able to cope with their circumstances. So again, I charge everyone to find someone young and impart some of your knowledge and wisdom and time into them, and make our city better. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me first thank JEA for this forum. Thank you all for being sensitive enough to recognize Black history. And I really appreciate the stories of all the panelists here as well. And as I sit here listening to stories, I was just deciding, there's been so many things that happened in my life that, what should I talk about? And in a kind of formed a theme as I listened to the previous testimonies. And you all have somewhat of an ambitious title here, How I Moved the Mountain. I'm not sure that I moved many mountains, but I do realize this, that we all have strong points and we all have weak points. Some of us, the reason we fail so often, we don't acknowledge our weak points and find a way to shore that up. But I know where my short side is. And my short side has actually turned into some of the greatest blessings I've been the recipient of. And that is, I think I'm a little dysfunctional because the things that appeal to me seem to be the things that's more difficult to achieve. I think that for whatever reason, they have absolutely no appeal to those things that people say is easy to do. But you get my attention when you say you can't do that, and I don't know why. I don't know why that is, but it is what it is. Now the fact of the matter is, when you give in to those challenges, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And as you all know, when I ran for mayor, you all emphatically said no to that, right? I know what you're going to say. I voted for you. I know you didn't vote for me. But I can tell you that the reason I have been so successful in my life, and I really do believe I've been successful, when you can say, as my introduction indicated, that first African-American sheriff elected in the state of Florida since Reconstruction. So, I mean, how do you do that? How do you go to your friends and say, look, I think I run for sheriff? And they want to see if you've been drinking. They want to test your sanity and all of that. And all of these things happen to me. But what I thought I'll talk about a little bit about, take the next 2 minutes to talk a little bit about, is the way I've been blessed and how the Lord has strategically placed people in my life to move me to the next level. And believe me, it's been a lot of help. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was giving a political speech one time, and I stopped in the middle of the speech, and I said, can you hear me? The guy stood in the back and said, I can't hear. The guy in the front said, you can have my seat. I thought I was on that. And it all starts from my mother. First, I grew up in the inner city here in Jacksonville, and the fact of the matter is, I wanted to quit school. I wanted to quit school. I was hanging out with a bunch of guys who were doing pretty well, looked like to me. I mean, the 3 guys I used to hang out with, one always had a pocket full of money, the other had a car, the other had a girlfriend. I ain't have none of that. and so I went to my mother and I told her, look, I want to quit school because they wasn't going to school. She said, if you're going to stay in this house, you're going to school. That saved my life.
Yeah.
That saved my life. Because I didn't want to get crossways of mom. And that's the only reason I went to school. And then I go to school, didn't want to do anything but go, be there as short a period as I could, and get out of there as quick as I can. But it just so happened, I got an opportunity to play football 1 year and got a full scholarship to Edward Waters College. And then I ended up going back to Edward Waters as president. That's a big deal.
Yes, sir.
That's after, in order for me to fulfill my scholarship, I had to clean the restroom as well as play football. Well, the restroom is right across the hall from the president's office. So one could make the case, I made the trip from the restroom to the president's office. And really, if you characterize it like that, that's a miracle. That's a miracle. Now, also had an arrest record, had been in jail. Everybody in my neighborhood had been in jail before. And I wanted to be a police officer. And that was not gonna happen. They were not gonna allow that to happen. The mayor of the city of Jacksonville, Lou Ritter, said, I'm gonna help you. Went to the Civil Service Board and said, I want this man to take the test. I want Nathaniel Glover to take the test. And the Civil Service Administrator said, no, that's not gonna happen. He's been arrested. We don't hire people who've been in jail as police officers. He said, I want him to take the test. She said, Mr. Mayor, I don't work for you. I work for that Civil Service Board. He said, and yes, I'll be reappointing 3 of them on that board. And Nat Glover got the opportunity to take the test to become a police officer and became a historical sheriff in this state. Every level of success was blessed with a person that was put in my path to make it happen. So my message to you is, we got mountain movers amongst us. These young people are smart. They are intelligent. All they need is a little help. Some of what these people need is a break, just a break, and they can soar like an eagle. So I would say to you, help somebody. Help somebody. And we can have mountain movers all around us. So that's my message, and that was the reason I was able to move a mountain here and there, because the Lord strategically placed the appropriate person in my path each time I walked into a roadblock. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to open it up for questions in just a second, but I do have one other question that I'd like to ask. I don't want to turn this, of course, into a conversation about gun control or anything like that, but we have some students that have gone to Tallahassee that are articulate. I watched the town hall last night. They are articulate, they are fired up. What advice, just one piece of advice, would you give to those students, and so that they continue to try and move the mountains, as it were?
Well, what I would say is, I think, as I indicated, these young people are a little different from the way we remember young people being. And we got to actually take them where they are, because we're not going to change them. So what we got to do, we got to help them. I would say to them to continue doing what they are doing. I think they need to make certain they got good leadership so they can be strategic about it. But let me just tell you, when you try to move an issue or impact an issue, or even if you try to change someone, because I know sometimes we give people advice and that kind of thing, and you get frustrated because they don't take it. Well, sometimes when you try to change a person and you give a person advice, you don't need to get frustrated if they don't take it. That's their choice. But the fact of the matter is, some of us need to hear the same thing 3 or 4 times before we decide to move on it, And my mother used to tell me all the time, I told you that 4 times. I mean, Mama, you keeping score? Yeah, I'm keeping score. But that 5th time, I got it, you see. So these young people are making an installment on this whole notion of gun control. And while they may not change the landscape, believe me, that issue and the dialogue about that issue will keep coming up. And they're going to be an important part of the solution. So I don't want them to get frustrated because they don't change the landscape overnight, but what they are saying is important because others are concerned about the same issue.
I traveled to New Delhi, India last January on a journey of peace. It was a pilgrimage with myself and 10 others. And one of the things that the goal of going over there was to follow in the steps of Dr. King and Mahatma Gandhi so that I could come back to America and reinvigorate nonviolence. That was, when I got on the plane, that was the goal. And I did experience 10 days of just their culture. And one of the questions we had, we were walking down the street in one of the villages in Rishikesh, India, in the Himalayan mountains, and people literally lived in grass huts. And they were cooking, and the kids were playing, and they were so happy. And of course, being from America, it's like, why are they so happy? You know, they literally have nothing. And we asked one of them, and he said, because we have peace, and that peace comes from God, and we don't need anything else. And that is something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And it's something that I wish that we had here in the States, to be just so appreciative for life that and value human life, that we could eradicate violence. Now, it's not completely nonviolent over there, but it's definitely not what it is here. And when we would tell people we're from America, they were like, oh, we feel sorry for you. And I'm like, oh my God. They told us that every day. Every day they told us that. So I definitely want to get back to that journey, because when the minute the plane landed and I started getting my news for Jax alerts, it's like shooting, murder, killing. I'm like, dang. I felt defeated as soon as I got back, because we see that every day here. And when I was there, it was none of that. And these people have nothing. So you would think that when they see Americans walking down the street with things that they feel like they can take, that would happen. And it wasn't. So that's something that I would wanted to share with you all. And for the young people to just, I'm sorry, to stay vigilant, to continue to hold politicians accountable, to continue to have those open conversations, and to continue to go to Tallahassee and be a part of the process, because a lot of people don't know that how the laws are passed, and that you can actually go and speak to lawmakers, and that they need to hear from citizens, not just lobbyists who are being paid for causes, but people who are actually affected by the laws that are passed or are not passed.
So I feel like kids, I was a teacher before I was a lawyer, and kids are so different today than they were when I was younger, in part because they know more. Social media, news, these kids know so much. And so what I think that I would tell kids, and what I tell them all the time when I talk to them, is please know the value of your own voice. Because I think that with young kids, particularly in the justice system, and I'm talking to all these ladies right back here, with young kids in the justice system, they're talked about a lot, but they're not talked to. That's one of the first things I noticed when I started doing juvenile justice, was you've got judges and lawyers and people staffing cases and even parents, everybody get in a room to talk about this kid, but the kid not feeling a lot of times like they have a safe space to be heard. And so I think for young people out there now, I think the value of your voice is so important. So please engage and speak and talk to us as adults. And adults, to you, I will say, please listen. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. And it is so hard for me sometimes to not talk over them and tell them what they need to be doing. And like Sheriff Glover was saying, I've told you this 7 times. You know, I feel like that is my daily life right now with my 4-year-old. And what I'm trying to do better is just listen. And so I think as adults, if we could be better with just listening to our kids and giving our kids a space where they can speak freely and valuing their opinions, I think that's what I challenge myself to do in my job better on a daily basis. And I hope that our youth would speak up. So many times I feel like I ask questions and I'm sometimes greeted with silence or with no response. And so what I would hope is that we can talk back and forth more, because I truly do want to hear what you have to say, because I think your perspective is incredibly important, and I think you guys are the future of our community. And so the problems that you see now and the things that you talk about now, those are the things that are going to spur on change. So I just want to thank y'all for coming today, young ladies, and for your performance that you did earlier. And I just ask that y'all stay engaged in the conversation, lead the conversation, because your voices are very important. And as adults, we really do want to hear what you have to say.
If I could share advice to young people, I would ask them to guard their hearts. Because whenever you become intimately involved in changing actions and reactions of others, you begin to see people as they are, not as who you thought they were. So I would say guard your heart so that you do not fall to defeat, because you're so devastated that, oh, I thought that person was really going to help, or that person was really in my corner. Guard your heart. Continue on the accountability train, because that's going to make the train stop and action occur. They need to continue on, move on, but take a breath, guard their heart, understand that you're going to see people differently, but they will come out stronger for it. So that is the one piece of advice I would share with them. Guard your heart. You're going to see some disappointments, but don't get defeated. You stand tall, you hold your head high, and you continue to move. Ask, 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 and continue to ask questions, because we've been too complacent. And so nobody wants to ask the real questions. They want to do everything behind closed doors. Well, these young people don't know our protocol. And they have created a movement that's going to change America. And we're going to start right here in Florida. So guard your hearts so that you do not get defeated because people disappoint you. Remember your mission. Keep the train going.
Being an educator, my advice would be, when you're in school, don't be afraid to speak to your classmates. Because a lot of kids are in class with the person, they've been in class the whole year, they don't know their name. They know their clique's name, but they don't know other people's names. So just by saying good morning to someone you don't know, it may brighten up their spirit, brighten the day. If you're holding something in, don't be afraid to share it with the counselor, your best friend. Don't hold anything in, because the more you hold stuff in, sooner or later, it's going to come to a head. You're just going to lash out at someone. So just be vulnerable. Open up, speak, share your problems. That way you can get the help you need. You don't know which friend is going to give you that word of encouragement. Maybe someone you don't know. Maybe somebody who's sitting behind you every day. There may be a person who has a lot of wisdom in them, but you never spoke to that person, so you would never know. So just speak to people, and like later in life, that person who you sat behind, you never knew their name, may happen to be that person to help you out. So just speak. It may not be, you don't have to say something every day, but just a wave, a how you doing, or sit by them at lunch, just something to kind of open up someone's heart and just kind of give them love, like you said, because it's missing. Love is not in schools, and the bullying is at an all-time high. because there is no love. Kids are not showing others love. They stick with the people that they know, and there's people right here at their table who, you know, may be missing that love factor. You know, they can, like I say, change their lives. I would just say, just be vulnerable, open up, you know, just share your experiences with others, and, you know, maybe that can help someone.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have probably about 4 or 5 minutes left. Are there any questions that someone's been dying to ask me? I think we have to share this one mic.
Good afternoon. First, I want to just give a quote that I heard, and I tried to make it my own. And I want you to simmer on this for just a moment, as dope people used to say. If the mountain was smooth, you couldn't climb it. Think about that. Then my question is basically to the gentleman on the panel. First, Dr. Glover, I want to thank you for coming back, because every time we call, you come. This is your second time on the panel. I don't know if anyone else knows he was the speaker a long time ago, over 20 years ago here. But Dr. Glover, coming from Axe Handle Sunday to sheriff, coming from the restroom to the president, coming from the neighborhood that you came from to make it against all odds to the NFL, what can we tell our young men, especially the young black men coming up, just like you did, how to steady the course?
Who wants this mic?
Our young men, they see fast money. And fast money, they get tunnel vision. Fast money is not the way. It's the process. If you stick to your process and your values, that will override fast money any day. So just having, like I say, that village, that community, you know, put hands on that child. When they see that child go astray, everyone needs to get onto that child, not just the parent. It takes the teacher, people at church, people in the community. So just everyone needs to be involved in that child's life. For myself, I saw what was going on around me in Roosevelt Gardens, Mixon Town, and seeing those things, I didn't want to be a part of it. So it's just a choice that I made to pursue things that I saw and avoid those things, and kind of strive for things that I didn't have that I wanted to attain in life, and to kind of set those things for my children. So knowing what I didn't have and how I grew up, I didn't want to kind of repeat that cycle. So I want to kind of break the mold and, you know, just set a new standard for myself and kind of people after me.
You know, throughout my career, I've seen some of the most brilliant minds, and the reason I came in contact with them, I happened to be a detective, and I'm putting them in the backseat of that police car, taking them to jail. And I always sympathize with them because I was that close from there. So I give 2 talks when I talk to young people to answer the question that you just asked. One of the talks has to do with you can do it. See, too often our young people default to the reasons they can't do it rather than trying to figure out how I can do it. And that was the reason that we talked a whole lot about, and the different panels have said, some of these young people need a little more help than others. But I'm telling you, there are mountain movers out there. All they need is a little help. Now, the other talk I give, and this is one that's close to my heart, that there are 4 things that young people have to do. And this, number 1, they have to have a plan. They have to come up with some kind of direction, some kind of I want to be this, some kind of I want to achieve this. or I dreamed of this. They have to have some kind of direction in which they need to go, or want to go, or desire to go, or would like to accomplish or achieve. That's the first thing, a plan. Secondly, they have to prepare to implement the plan. Because, I mean, you can wish that you were a doctor or want to be a doctor all you want, but you know you got to go to medical school. You don't go down and buy a bag. Yeah, and then, you know, say, all right, I'm a doctor. Yeah, you know, you got to go, stay in school, go to college, and go to medical school. So they got to legitimately prepare. And here's the next thing. They have to learn to persevere. You remember I told you, life is an up and down situation. At some point in your life, you're going down. At some point in your life, you're going to fail. But we need to teach our young people, they need to persevere. Because none of these people up here, as successful as they've been down at one time before. You can guarantee that, where they had to get up. So we teach them, hang in there, don't give up, persevere. And the next P, if you remember, all three of these start with a P, right? What was the first? Plan. And the second? Prepare. No, the second was not persevere. We gonna start again. What was the first? Pray. What was the second? Prepare. What was the third? Persevere. And the fourth one is to pray. We have to teach our young people prayer changes things. Now I'm telling you, I am a prayer. I prayed to the Lord when I became a police officer. Lord, if you just make me a detective, you don't have to worry about me no more. I will come and ask you nothing else. You know, you go ask a whole bunch of other people. Don't have to worry about me. Blessed me to be a detective for 15 years and took me on and made me sheriff. So prayer changed things. So you think about those 4 P's and really get young people to understand them and digest them and live by. That's the formula for success. Number 1 is what? Plan. 2? Prepare. 3? Persevere. 4? Pray. All right, got it.
On behalf of our entire committee, I do want to say thank you for coming, each of you, and for sharing your stories with us.
At this time, I just want to take a quick moment to once again thank all of our panelists for being here today. They did a phenomenal job. Let's give them another round of applause. And also want to recognize them and ask them to hang out a few minutes after the program if they could for pictures, but to let them know that we will be presenting them actually right now. Each of our speakers on behalf of the Black History Month Committee and myself as the chair, we'd like to thank you once again. So this time we're going to present you with this nice award that says JEA presents to you in special appreciation for your support of our JEA's 29th Annual Black History Month program. Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to ask him to pass it out to Jamal Fudge. Does someone have Jamal? I actually have Jamal. Jamal Fudge. We're giving you the box it came in too, so if you can hold them out, we're going to take pictures after the program. The Honorable Paula D. Wright, Laura Lambert, Renata Hannons, and Dr. Nathaniel Glover. Thank you so much. We so appreciate it. Thank you. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask our Chief Public Affairs Officer, Mr. Mike Hightower, to come forward and give us closing remarks.
Thank you, Aletta. I think one of the things that we can never, ever do is ever tell anybody thank you enough. First, to our guests from La Villa, all of you all, thank you. What this is really, you all helped us bridge what this is all about. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to move a mountain, if we're going to change, it's to change for the next generation, for our young people. And today was a wonderful reflection and a wake-up call, or as the chairwoman said, accountability. What are we doing every day to move the mountain, and why do we move the mountain is for the next generation. So to all of you, to Dr. Glover's 4 Ps, because I got one of them wrong, which he'll remind me of. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for persevering and planning your life. Thank you for being here. To our panelists, all of you, to the chairwoman, to the doctor, to, I'm gonna make sure I get everybody's name, Laura, Renata, to Jamal, especially the 2 JEU graduates, go JEU. Thank you all for sharing not only sharing your story, but sharing your passion and your feeling for us at JEA. It is really important that you all were here, and it's really important for us to hear what you're saying, because as the chairwoman said, we have a responsibility in our personal and our professional lives to do something every day, as Dr. Glover says, to plan on helping to move a mountain. It doesn't happen. You can't give that accountability and that responsibility to someone else if you want the world to change, if you want your neighborhood to change, if you want something to happen. That belongs to each and every one of us. And so I think to all of you that were here, thank you for that lesson to us, because in spite of all the great things that the JEA does every day, we have that prayerful responsibility, every one of us, in our professional and our personal lives, to find a way to make this a better place every day, because it won't happen. And so I say to the JEA employees, it is an honor and a privilege to be a part of this. This is without a doubt the most extraordinary organization. And to the people who are on the back of this host committee, something like this doesn't just happen. To all of you all, thank you. You make it a reason and a pleasure and an honor to work for this organization. You all have a great day. Thank you.
You can please stand for the legendary voices sing.
If we could have one last moment of your time. This is an opportunity for us to join together in unity to sing the song that is listed on the back. I just want to let you know and give a special credit to the special arrangement that you are about to hear came from the collaborative talents of Johnny Flood and our own Blake Osner.
A special arrangement for only JEA, so it's ours forever.